Hello, and welcome to Books I've Read for Class, starting off with The Odyssey by Homer, translated by Emily Wilson. I actually really enjoyed this book. It was like a soap opera. There was so much drama and stuff going on. I thought the translation was really accessible. I thought the writing was great. I've just really enjoyed reading it. I thought the ending was a little anticlimactic. It was like 24 books of insanity, and then the ending is like, so then it's over. And you're like, really? After all of that? Okay. So if I could change it, I would change the ending. But otherwise, I really, really liked this translation. And I mean, everything I knew about the Odyssey was from pop culture, specifically Percy Jackson. So it was cool to read like the original text. I don't know, I had a good time with it. So thumbs up for me.
Okay, so next up is the NRSV version of Genesis, which I don't have a physical copy of. We had a PDF. As a Catholic, I know I should have enjoyed this, but I really did not. The storytelling was super scattered and there wasn't a lot of context, and I spent most of the time just being like, wait, no, and then getting really confused. And I also don't like how the women were portrayed, where they were held to different standards than the men. Like, the men could sleep around, but if the women did the same thing, they were punished. It was... I didn't really like that. Overall, just not the vibe. I spent a lot of the time really confused and or really angry about the way it was written, so yeah, I didn't enjoy this one as much. We are doing a double feature because I forgot about this thing that I was doing. First up is Oedipus Tyrannus. This is like watching a train wreck, you know? You can't look away. You know what's gonna happen. Spoiler alert, he killed his dad and sleeps with his mom. But he didn't know. And I like how Sophocles like painted him as a sympathetic hero, even though like he's definitely wrong. He didn't know. It confronts like ignorance is bliss. Also, my man Sophocles is a fan fiction writer. Like, took a well-known hero in the culture, wrote his own headcanon that was so good it became canon. Ultimate goal for a fanfic writer. So much fun. I enjoyed it. Second up is Medea by Euripides. I already loved this coming in, but I'd never read the whole thing. I did perform a monologue from it, and I mean, ultimate girl boss, slay queen. She did. Her anger was justified, but not her actions. But this is basically like Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood, except for instead of messing up his car, she kills everybody he loves. Not ideal what she did, but honestly, the ultimate definition of feminine rage, female rage, quintessential girl boss. This has some great like feminist monologues in it, and it was written a while ago, so I recommend giving this a read. It's only 50 pages. It's so fun. I mean, content warning, she does murder her own children, but I mean, no, I don't justify that. She was wrong, but it is such a fun read. I definitely recommend reading it. Slay Greek Tragedies. English. I'm not good at it. So, just finished Gorgias by Plato. I did not enjoy like 90% of it. Socrates is like a feral dog barking. He could have an argument with himself, and he does at the end. And he makes some good points, but I mean, sometimes it feels like he's just trying to humiliate the person that he's arguing with, and it's boring. But like the ending is actually really solid. I think he makes some good points throughout the book, but I just think that me being forced to read his very slow and methodical arguments, not my vibe. I don't want to have to. I didn't want to have to. It took me so long to read this book because I had to read it all out loud because it's so dense. It's so dense. And I think it has some good points, but then also it's just like, it's so dense. It does have some like low-key, just, he's roasting his opponents throughout. And then Callicles comes in and roasts him a little bit, which is a welcome relief. But then he wins. He wins those arguments because he's good at not arguing. He's good at putting his points out there. Anyway, do I think it was a good read? Yes. Did I enjoy reading it? No, if that makes sense. In general, I don't think I want to read any more Plato after this. He kind of gave me a headache. But I enjoyed some of the sassiness. So it is like a mid-tier book for me. Wow, my hair is bad. Anyway, this is the book. Chuang-Tzu, right? At least I think that's how you say it. None of the professors were really clear about it. I only read 10 chapters of this, but I'm counting it as completed because it took long enough to be counted as a whole book. I think this had some beautiful points, but also this is the most difficult thing I've ever read in my life. I didn't understand a word of it, and it was contradictory, and there were so many names that I didn't know, and I didn't get any context to help me with that. I don't know Chinese mythology, I don't know Chinese history, and so this was just incredibly difficult to read as just going in blind. Like, I went in blind and I was just super, super confused. So I do think it had some cool, interesting, like, considerations, but I didn't really understand them well enough to be able to fully appreciate them because I just spent the entire time with a headache because I was so confused. So after this and Gorgias, I've decided I just don't like philosophy. So, yeah. Next, I have another text I don't know how to pronounce. So here's hoping that one's a little bit better, but probably not. Gotta read before Caecilial me forgot about saying the title. So this is the Panchatantra by Vishnu Sharma. I really liked this book. It's mostly but not all animal fables, and it's really cool because it seems like, oh, it's just this simple moral, but when you think about it in the context of the story, it's like, is it really the simple moral, or is it a person using a moral as a way to convince someone of something that's not actually true? So it's really fun when you think about the implications. I read about half of it. I mean, this is all I had to read for class, was about half of it, but I'm actually going to continue to read it because I really liked it. Minus the treatment of women. I hated how they were written, because they were either evil or reduced to just an object of sexual pleasure, which I hated. And yes, it was written in the 200 BCE based off of oral traditions that went about way earlier than that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it and doesn't mean I excuse it. So I hated the way women were treated in this text, but otherwise it was really interesting and really fun, and way better than the past philosophy I'd had to read. So definitely recommend giving this a read. I can't vouch for the rest of it, but I plan to keep reading it because I really enjoyed it. So yes, thumbs up for me. Final text, and man, am I so glad to be done. This is The Golden Ass by Apuleius. Is that how you say it? I don't know. I hated this book. It was super graphic. It had incest and bestiality and rape, and just, it was super sexist and homophobic and horrible, and the ending made no sense. And while it was a much quicker read than my past books that I've read for class, I enjoyed one story of the probably 40 told in this. So I didn't like it. I'm so glad it's over. I also had to read it in like 2 weeks, and it's almost 300 pages. So that might have contributed a little bit, but it's fine. So just to like recap everything, I read a lot of texts. I liked some of them, I didn't like some of them. I overall am glad I took the course, glad I got to read the texts, even if I didn't personally enjoy them. I think a lot of them had good things for me to learn in them. So overall, I'm glad I took it, and I'm glad I got to read it, and thanks for coming along with me.